Greetings and felicitations, YouTube. Welcome to another episode of Dr. Appius. Here we go. This was submitted to me by KingofGondor. He sent me 2 replays. Both of his games are against friend of the channel, Scorpion. This first game looks to be on the 4400 rule set. Both games are on the 4400 rule set, 12,400 large funds. We've got Mycenae versus Lycia here. Let's talk about the opponents first. The opponents brought 2 Lycian winged chariots. It looks like 1 heavy Lycian chariot, an archer trickster, not a skirmisher hero, on chariot. This hero is not going to be able to use most of its abilities so long as it's on its chariot. We've got, I do believe, 2 Eastern slingers, 4 renowned Khopesh fighters for the medium infantry slot. We've got a pair of companions of Sarpedon for the heavy infantry slot. We've got 2 armored giant spearmen. And this is a pretty hefty chariot investment for this map. If you take a look at it, here I'll go into the top-down view. You can see there's a lot of trees all over this map. In the dark black here is a space that the Mycenaean player, KingofGondor, cannot see. He also cannot see the majority of these units because they are also in the tree line. Now, KingofGondor also brought, much less of a chariot investment. He brought about, let's see here, this is 1,500 points of chariot, 750 each for 1 medium chariot. We've got 3 armored spearmen for the heavy infantry slot. For medium infantry, he brought 5 shielded clubmen. It's a very affordable unit, and I like what they do, generally speaking. We also have 3 light swordsmen. He spent some XP around on them, and 3 Achaean slingers. Agamemnon is on foot. Now, I'm going to let this play out. The first big thing here is, with a map like this, as much tree as it has, and with your army having deployed here next to the trees, it looks like you intended to play with the forest to your advantage. You brought medium chariots. Lycia can bring better chariots, no matter what, and he's going to take advantage of that right here. He could, if he wanted to, choose to just charge these heavy Lycian chariots into your chariots, and I see your orders. You've actually told them to attack the heavy Lycian chariot. This is just completely ill-advised. The medium chariots are not going to do damage against the heavy chariot quite as effectively as you'd like them to. Even though they're a skirmish chariot, these guys are all attackers first, and Scorpion looks to have put his guys on skirmish mode, hence them running into the trees. Don't put your chariots in trees, dude. And he's basically just kiting you along, and he's doing all of his damage with skirmishing. He took a little bit of damage on this heavy Lycian chariot, but he could just lead you along all the doo-dah day, and he's keeping his forces protected in the tree line. There's very little that these chariots can do from here, and likewise, they're also losing all of their health. You can just see that this charge is pretty desperate.
Are losing heart.
This one's already broken, and this order I definitely disagree with. With only a few shreds of their morale left, you decide to charge into the trees, into armored giant spearmen. I don't know if that was intentional, but this is where their life ends. And I feel like in the end, you ultimately just flushed 1,500 points of your army down the drain. Your Lycia can always bring more chariots. Maybe you were thinking on this map you could get away with some medium chariots in the hopes that your opponent wouldn't bring any chariots, because again, there's a lot of trees, but that was just really unfortunate. And the long story short here is you let your opponent pick the engagement, and you really should have brought those guys back. If you had brought the chariots back over this way, you might have had an opportunity to pounce on his chariots if he had pursued you. In the meantime, his winged Lycian chariots are just going to sit here in the scrubs. Don't put your chariots in scrubs. Dude. Alright, now we do have a nice long line here. We've got some slingers opening fire. It looks like that might have been targeted on a renowned Khopesh fighter, which is going to get shield block chance and the trees and the scrub block chance. So it looks like you wisely stopped. You're getting shot at by these Eastern slingers. I don't know if they're not hidden anymore, so you do know that they're there. Your shielded clubmen, one of their biggest advantages is that their shield actually does a really good job blocking missiles. But it doesn't work at this angle. You need to have at least a 45 degree to the left for where those missiles approach from for you to be able to block with your shield. So right now you're just taking damage. If you're going to sit here anyway, might as well turn them. Might as well turn them to face the source of the slings, since you're not advancing. Looks like you're going to hold this position
You have lost.
And this is going to lead to the next big folly, which you will be revealed to shortly. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward this and get to the next stage of the battle. Alright, now over here, this is actually great news for you. The slingers are opening fire on the winged Lycian chariots. This is great. Some of your slings are going to get lost on tree trunks, but frankly, this is actually a really, really good trade for you. Your slingers only cost you 280 points. These guys are 600, and I think they're a little bit more expensive now, but they're a very inexpensive chariot, but they're taking a ton of damage from those slings. Damage they wouldn't have to normally take anyway. Now, because you've chosen to hold this line, and I think it's a rather awkward line. I mean, you've kind of curled it in here, and you have exposed it to all this slinger fire. But because you're holding this line, you're allowing Scorpion here, playing as Lycia, to pick the engagements. He knows your shielded clubmen are not a fantastic melee unit, so what does he do? He's going to attack it with renowned Khopesh fighters. He's going to ignore your armored spearmen completely. He's just going to go right past it. He's not even going to attack them. He might eventually pull in something a little bit more valuable, like these companions of Sarpedon, to engage your armored spearmen, but for the most part, he's just going to let his Khopesh fighters and armored giant spearmen just come down the line here and break apart your entire army. Now, you are getting some fantastic damage done against these Lycian winged chariots, and maybe that's where your micro focus is right now, but you have to be aware. Look at this. Your lines are collapsing all the way down from the very, very end because he was able to choose the engagements. You have moved up this armored spearman to engage this renowned Khopesh fighter before it can get to your shielded clubman. I commend you for that, but I think at this point the damage is already done, unless you can get the rest of these armored spearmen into position. Meanwhile, these chariots are back over here. They're contemplating a charge, and this is actually a blunder when they do it. These light chariots are going to charge into your light swordsmen because it is a light infantry. Hey, maybe they can get some damage done. But they're close enough to the trees that when they finish their charge, they're just going to be completely out of position, and your very inexpensive light swordsmen are going to tear apart some very inexpensive chariots, but at least you'll have that taken care of for you. In the meantime, as you can see, there is no more left flank. There is no more center. All you have left is your right flank in this kind of protected position. These units are currently not being used, and here comes that chariot charge into the scrubs. Don't put chariots and scrubs, Scorpion. And look at that. These guys just get evaporated. It's an extended combat, and with these heavy Lycian chariots in here. And also, Agamemnon didn't do anything. He just kind of stood here all battle. My big complaint with your army build was, my question for you is who's doing the damage? The armored spearmen, presumably. The medium chariots, if you could get lucky and your opponent didn't bring any chariots. But when it boils down to it, shielded clubmen, 110 damage is good, but they're not mainline material without more support. Armored spearmen, 115 damage, also pretty good. Agamemnon with his blood sacrifice is like 1,600 damage. Absolutely absurd, but look at this. Heavy Lycian chariots routed by light swords. They will never live down the shame. You should never live down the shame of this chariot charge. But maybe Scorpion's thought process at the time was, I've already won this fight, just cause as many casualties as I can, get them to rout. You don't have an answer for the companions of Sarpedon. They've now come in here, and they're just, with the support of these giants, they're just going to tear apart what's left of your infantry line. So yeah, that's it for this battle. As you can tell, it just kind of fell apart. The archer's trickster hero only managed 45 kills. A lot of his shots probably getting wasted on tree trunks. You did take care of the chariots in the end, but you've only now engaged with Agamemnon into these companions of Sarpedon. He needed to be used a lot earlier. Your slingers weren't going to get the damage done. I think you needed the support of some club warriors, not just the shielded clubmen. Let's go ahead and look at the end battle statistics. Here we are, the end battle statistics, and we have a story in the numbers. 0 kills in the chariots, 0 survivors. About less than 100 kills across all 3 armored spearmen. The shielded clubmen dealt very, very little damage. Your light swordsman did a valiant effort. I'd say that was pretty good. 3 slingers, 7 kills, Agamemnon 1 kill. All said and done, your opponent only took 236 casualties. And why was that the case? Because Renowned Kopesh Fighter will eat Shielded Clubmen for breakfast, lunch, dinner, midnight snack, afternoon tea, all of it. Just devour those units. The Companions of Sarpedon are they're very much like Renowned Kopesh Fighter, but on speed, on drugs. They're on steroids. They can also do a heck of a powerful job, and they arrived late. And once they arrived, you didn't have a piece in play. Your opponent also brought, and this is I think it's probably unlucky for you. I'm not sure what your strategy was picking the 2 medium chariots. Maybe you were calling that Lycia wouldn't bring any chariots because of the trees, but the 2 Lycian winged chariots, the heavy Lycian chariot, and the 2 armored giant spearmen are a perfect counter to even bringing 2 medium chariots and 2 heavy chariots. If you had brought all of that, this is going to be too much war power for you to have dealt with. So what would I have done differently playing on that map? If I had brought a chariot at all, I wouldn't have gone with 2 mediums. I would have gone with 2 heavies. And even still, I'd be biting my fingernails because there's a lot of trees on that map and your opponent can just sit in the trees. The 3 armored spearmen were a good pick. The shielded clubmen, yeah, I mean, what else can you bring for the medium infantry slot if you're bringing the 3 armored spearmen? Maybe not have brought all 3 armored spearmen. Maybe have brought only 2 and have also brought a companion of Agamemnon or a champion of Agamemnon, whatever those 2 charger units are called. I think one of those units might have actually helped you out a good deal against armored giants, against even chariots, and definitely would have helped against renowned Kopesh fighters and companions of Sarpedon. Your light infantry choice, I disagree with completely. The light swordsmen, I think you would have been better off with club warriors. They don't have shields, they're quick, they throw javelins, they kind of do everything except block missiles, but even still their formation is spread out and they don't get mowed down as easily. They also do a fantastic job against Lycian winged chariots because of those javelins. And Agamemnon, he has good damage potential, but I think you could have saved some money by knocking it down to just say like an archer hero or a fighter vanquisher. And the 3 Achaean slingers, if you're going to bring any Achaean slingers with this many trees, I would just bring 1 or 2. So there's some areas where you could have cut. It's like trimming the fat off of a diet, right? There's some fat in here that we can trim off and then distill it into something better. I like that you went wide. I do appreciate that. It's just that the shielded club, they needed a little bit more support if they were going to ever face renowned Kopesh fighters and companions of Sarpedon. Let's look at your second battle, because some of the same morals of the story apply here. And the big moral of the story, I would say, in that first battle is picking your battles. Choosing who fights who. In this battle, you gave a lot of that initiative to your opponent. Let's see how you do in the next replay. This time you're playing as Dardania and you're playing against Scorpion's favorite, Sparta. You've both brought your epic heroes, Menelaus versus Aeneas. Let's go into the top-down mode. A lot fewer trees here, but there is some tall grass. I'm going to put this in slow motion while I get an accounting of your army. This is also at 4,400 rules funds. I love this because at 4,400 rules funds, Dardania can bring, as you've demonstrated here, 7 medium infantry units, which I love. So yeah, we've got 6 Dardanian mob up front, each one with 1 XP chevron. We have 3 fearless swords for your heavy infantry slot. We've got 5 Anatolian swords, quite a significant expenditure of funds on experience for those. 2 shieldless spears as well. I have thoughts about the shieldless spears. We'll talk about that in a second. And 3 Anatolian slingers, also with XP chevrons. I'd be interested to see how much money you could have saved without all that XP. I'd be very interested to see. And your opponent isn't just up here, obviously, but we'll talk about that in a second. Your opponent has brought, for heavy infantry, 3 armored spearmen. For medium infantry, he's brought what looks like 4 Laconian swordsmen and renowned Laconian axemen. He has a Spartoi over here, we also have 3 Achaean slingers. And also, on the far flanks, 1 on each side, a light spear runner. 1 on each side. So not 3 light spear runners, as you can often expect to see. Neither player choosing to bring chariots this time around. So a very, very different battle already. This one really interested me, because if you're facing off against Sparta, you need to think about countering those light spear runners, and my favorite counter to them is chariots. And the way he's playing these light spear runners is actually really kind of bold, because Dardania can bring centaurs, Dardania can bring chariots, and still be able to field a very significant mainline infantry. If one of these spear runners gets caught out by one of those units, they can disintegrate a light spear runner with repeated charges. So it was very interesting to see this play from Scorpion. I wouldn't have recommended that. That was actually my big lesson from the tournament I played in, was splitting up your stock units or your vanguard units and putting them into positions where they could get singled out if you got unlucky with it. Now then, let's take a look at this. I mentioned I have thoughts about the shieldless spears. Shieldless spears are pretty cool, but you know who does exactly the same job as a shieldless spear for only a little bit more money and has yet more skills as well? The medium shielded spear unit of Dardania, I think it's just called a Dardanian spear, can put its shield on its back, and it actually performs better than a shieldless spear as a spear charger. Just so you know. Just so you know. Something to keep in mind the next time you're planning this out, because I think with the XP that you spent on it, it's a comparable cost. I do very much love the choice of Anatolian swords. These guys have 125 weapon damage for only 500 funds, which is great because Laconian swords are also 125 weapon damage unit, but at 750 funds. So you're actually buying better melee damage than Sparta can afford at the same cost, and that's something that Dardania is really good for, is cheap units. Now, we were talking about picking your battles. At its surface value, I love what you're doing here. You're taking a Dardanian mob and you're chasing off an Achaean slinger. This is not counting the XP. This is like an 80 points difference, and you're removing this slinger from the game. But you're not following this up with anything. You did this by itself. You've sent one Dardanian mob to its death, basically. All Scorpion has to do is turn off skirmish mode, turn this Achaean slinger around, and this Laconian swordsman, right on cue, is going to rear attack it, and this Dardanian mob is gone. Okay, well,
your warriors,
you're on to your next charge. And what do? You're sending 400 points of Dardanian mob into 1,500 points of Laconian swordsmen that have the support of renowned Laconian axemen and Achaean slingers. This is actually good news for you. You want those slingers to shoot your mob, because that's what the mob is made for. They're made to die. This charge here, I do not know what your plan is. If your plan is, I'm just going to throw my mobs up here to prevent these medium infantry units from joining the main engagement, would make sense to me if there was a main engagement. These maneuvers on surface value are not a bad idea if you have something else going on. If you're attacking, that's what the mobs do. The mobs slow down enemy units. They're a speed bump. You've grabbed the attention of 3 whole units using just 2 mob here. This is good for you if you had an attack happening. But you don't. And over here, this mob is just going to get chased off by a Laconian swordsman. This is good news for you. That's 750 points running away from the main engagement. If there was a main engagement. This is what I mean by picking your battles. These maneuvers on their surface value aren't bad if you have other stuff going on. Just sending these men off to die doesn't accomplish anything, unfortunately. Yeah, you've dealt some damage to this Achaean slinger, but it's definitely not worth 200 funds worth of damage. Okay, now it looks like Sparta has decided he's going to engage you. I feel that you could have been attacking. If you had pushed up your main infantry line to the middle and sent your mobs off to deal with these flanking forces just to slow them down, you might have been able to punch through some of these heavier units over here. The Spartoi is going to be a tough sell for you. The armored spearmen are going to be a tough sell for you. But by taking your time here, you've given your opponent all the time he needs to put his light spear runners behind your army and get ready for a rear attack. This Laconian swordsman is coming back over here. Oh no, he's still chasing a Dardanian mob. What am I talking about? It's just a shattered Dardanian mob. And
the foe has sighted your hidden units.
Because you didn't make the attack orders here, Scorpion chooses the battles. He's throwing a Laconian swordsman into your Fearless Swordsman, knowing full well his Laconian sword is going to lose this. But he's occupied this Fearless Sword so that he can do something else, which is bring in his other more expensive units, like Armored Spearmen, to fight your Anatolian swords, or to get this Armored Spearman into a Dardanian mob. I don't think that was his plan, but hey, it slowed down that Spearman. The Spartoi is gonna... Okay, yeah, it's definitely charging into that Dardanian mob. I think he's just hoping to get as many kills as he can on that Spartoi at this point. But as you can see here, like, he's getting engagements that he wants, not the other way around, and here comes the light spear runners. He hasn't even engaged here yet because he just wants to keep using his range units. Ooh, also, avoid this when you can. Don't let your ranged units stack on top of your melee units, because...
Your warriors have spotted hidden foes.
Okay, you can now see the spear runners coming. Yep, you now know that they're there, but anyway, with the overlapping units, you're now getting extra damage potential out of the enemy slingers because they're attacking both units now. And it looks like you never saw it coming. The light spear runners charge you from behind. Big impact here. Holy cow, I'm really losing some frames right now, and I apologize for this. This is a surprisingly low performance for my computer. I haven't seen it like this in a long time, but hey, we're here. This is cool, though. We do get the title heavyweight matchup fight here. This is Menelaus versus Aeneas, and it's going to carry on for not too terribly much longer, I'm sure. Here we go. We have two armored spearmen engaged against the Fearless Sword. I don't know, I mean, and if these shieldless spears can hold the line here, that's good news, but even still, your Fearless Swords are losing this fight, and eventually somebody's going to be able to flank around and get behind them. You have done a good job activating the shieldless spears to just prevent Laconian swords from getting around you completely. Yeah, this is an interesting fight. I actually don't know what happens from here. When I was watching it earlier, the game crashed on me. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Now, your Anatolian swords did beat that Laconian swordsman. That's good. And you did try to pull them around. I would have actually drawn a line with the units behind them before just attacking directly into the flank. He has activated Shield Wall for missile resistance. Interesting. Interesting play, Menelaus. I'm not sure who's shooting you right now. Except your own men, maybe? It could be he's trying to defend his men from his own slingers. That could be the case. So yeah, these light spear runners have taken some damage dealing with this Anatolian sword, but it's dealt with. And the other light spear runner is now out here kind of racking up kills on Anatolian slingers. This is actually pretty significant. Those Anatolian slingers are a pretty good unit, and not that cheap either. Yeah, look at this. So we do have a nice little envelopment here on these armored spearmen. We are getting some damage done. Spartoi have taken a ton of damage fighting this Fearless Swords, but with the support of the armored spearmen, you are going to lose that Fearless Sword. But there's still a lot of battle left to fight. We still have more than 4 minutes, and the balance of power is actually kind of favoring you. We do have a Fearless Swordsman over here that's broken. We'll come back. We have your light spear runners are running all over these slingers. Okay, we have a breach in your line. The shieldless spears did lose the Laconian swords, but they're hardly going to be needed as this Fearless Swords is now routing away. Aeneas did beat Menelaus. Good. His name is John Cena. Did you know? All right, now we've got a lot of armored spearmen to deal with. That is still a big problem. Alright, I'm just continuing to watch, just see if there's anything else to interest me. The moral of the story, I still feel... Oh, you both activated air stay at the same time. This might be a glitched replay at this stage. I did notice that it did say, when I was loading up the replay, that it was from a different version of the game. I doubt very highly you both would have activated your air stay at the same time, unless it was from a glitch. We shall see. We shall see. I've been noticing this a lot more recently with replays that are sent to me. For some reason, it keeps telling me that people are sending me replays from a different version of the game, which I don't understand, because we're all playing on 1.5.1, or we should be. So we may see some orders here that don't quite mesh up with what happened. I still feel like what I said holds true for the majority of these engagements. Oh man, you just lost your last Fearless Sword over here. There's 3 Armored Spearmen kind of clumped together. You are trying to use the rest of your ammo on this effectively. And that Laconian Sword just... sorry, that Anatolian Sword just shattered. So this Light Spear Runner can now come in here and attack your Anatolian Slingers. So we got Spear Runners versus Anatolian Swords, but they're losing decisively. So that's another unit taken out by Light Spear Runners. Spartoi, you're supporting Menelaus. This is not so good for Aeneas, but Aeneas is very healthy right now. Blood of Heracles activated, as well as his Aristea did give him some health replenishment. So Menelaus, it looks like he is going to lose here soon. But I think Aeneas is going to take a ton of damage here. Just kind of looking around at the rest of the battle just to see if there's anything else still in play. You have an Anatolian Sword over here that can come back. I think that's it. Oh my gosh, there's a Dardanian mob still in this fight. Go you. Go mob. Look at you little chums. Alright, so you got Menelaus. But all you have left here is Aeneas. Aeneas and 1 Anatolian Sword, and maybe these guys if they come back from routing. So yeah, this battle is pretty much a done deal. It's just a matter of the Armored Spearman getting the opportunity to kill your hero. And it looks like he's moving away from the hero. Oh, to engage your Anatolian Swords. Because he's hoping if he shatters the Anatolian Swords, he won't even have to fight Aeneas. There goes the Anatolian Swords, but that wasn't enough to deal with the fact that his Divine Regeneration and his huge health point pool aren't still something you have to deal with. So, yeah. Gonna have to fight Aeneas, but Aeneas is a very, very lonely man. With him being the only thing that's left, this fight is over. There it is. Looking at the unit card, you did a very good job to bring a full 20 stack. I do believe that's a full 20 stack. It looks like it. Yep, 7, 7, and 6, so that's 20. Your opponent managed 200 kills on Laconian Swords, 127 on renowned Laconian Axemen, 158 on Armored Spear, 264 for this Light Spear Runner, 162 for that one, 174 kills for Spartoi. Again, that was all like mobs, though, right? Right, exactly. But also you let him choose the engagements again. You were better about it this time than last time, I would say. And you had some very interesting strategies with your mobs that didn't play out because you didn't follow it up with a mainline attack. Had you been more aggressive there and pushing your advantage and using your mobs to just slow down the units that Scorpion had on his flanks, you could have done some serious damage. 3 Fearless Swordsmen engaging the 3 Armored Spearmen, and the rest of your Anatolian Swords engaging the other Laconian Swords would have paid off for you. Absolutely would have paid off for you. You had an 800 man advantage. Also, that map, I would have brought some chariots. Definitely would have brought them that time. Anyway, I hope that these, my advice and my opinions is helpful to you as we move forward into these days of 1.5.1. I'm recording this before the update comes out. I hope that in quick battles my advice is helpful to you. I hope my advice is helpful to you for tournament play, because it looks like you guys are both preparing for our tournament, okay? If you're interested in being a part of Dr. Appius series, consider joining the Discord linked below. This is Death's Discord server for Troy Total War multiplayer, and it's where I've met the best Troy players in the world right now, and it's from that server. Show on up, ask for a game. There's always somebody willing to play. There's always people willing to give great advice, and that's where you can submit replays to me. That's where you can also join to become a part of our tournament, which is coming up soon. Date still to be determined. Anyway, ta-ta, I love you all, and I'll see you guys in the next video.